The Galactic Council chamber sprawled out like a grand tapestry of stars. Its walls shimmered with veined crystal, capturing the light of a distant nebula in swirling colors. It was a place of impossible beauty and equal danger, for it was here that the greatest, most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered. Hundreds of alien species were seated in tiered rows, each representative's unique physiology reflecting a different environment, a different story. Some had scales that shifted hues, others were encased in armored shells, while a few floated, seemingly without physical form, communicating in waves of telepathic energy. The air was thick with the sounds and smells of alien languages, a cacophony of clicks, hums, and telepathic pulses. The odors varied from the earthy scent of the forest-born Threxims to the metallic tang of the Synthonids, beings of metal and plasma. A few council members communicated through changes in bioluminescent skin patterns, or even pheromones that carried messages across the vast room. Some species looked upon others with a mix of apprehension and challenge, their histories colored by millennia of wars, alliances, betrayals, and truces. At the center of this awe-inspiring assembly sat a single human delegate, an ambassador named Elise Harrington. She was small, slight, and wrapped in a simple suit of earth fabrics that contrasted sharply against the gleaming armor and robes around her. Her calm, unassuming appearance seemed almost absurd here, like a child standing amid titans. Yet she sat upright, observant, eyes scanning the room without a trace of fear. Her presence was an anomaly in this gathering of ancient and powerful beings. The agenda for today's meeting was serious and contentious. The Council was discussing the fate of a recently discovered planet, Tarkon 12. This world was rich in unique resources and home to several undiscovered species, including one of terrifying renown, the Muradhawk. The Muradhawk was no ordinary predator. Towering and armored, with serrated spines and eyes that glowed in low light, it was known for its brutal hunting methods and an intelligence that rivaled the deadliest of Council species. Stories of the Muradhawk's ruthlessness had spread quickly, and many Council members were reluctant even to discuss the creature's existence. But here was humanity's strange role. A species from a small, unremarkable planet, the humans had a reputation for strange behaviors and a resilience that puzzled even the Council's oldest members. There were whispers among the delegates that humans, despite their limited strength and short lifespans, were capable of incredible feats under pressure. Some found this admirable, while others viewed humanity as unpredictable and risky. As the Council debated Tarkon 12's fate, Elise's gaze remained steady. Her calm presence, as well as humanity's mixed reputation, had piqued the Council's curiosity and concern. In the Council, debates sparked easily, often a matter of pride or ideological clash. Species from predatory worlds argued that Tarkon 12's natural order shouldn't be disturbed, while more cautious members proposed containment measures to protect the Council's territories. Amidst this heated discussion, a screen descended at the front of the hall. It flickered to life, showing a live feed from Tarkon 12's surface. A Muradhawk appeared on the screen, captured in high definition, and the Council fell silent. The creature stood several meters tall, its thick, segmented exoskeleton shimmering in hues of violet and black. Its eyes gleamed with a predatory intelligence, and its jaws were lined with razor-like teeth. As it prowled across the screen, even the bravest Council members shivered. This was a beast born of a brutal world, one that had risen to the top of a harsh food chain. The Muradhawk embodied raw, unyielding survival. The Council members exchanged uneasy glances, each feeling the palpable tension in the room. As powerful as many of them were, even they hesitated at the idea of confronting such a creature. Whispers rippled through the assembly, some members muttering that humanity would be the first species to fall should they cross paths with the Muradhawk. After all, how could fragile beings like humans hope to survive against creatures like this? But then, amidst the murmurs, Elise raised her hand, capturing the attention of the entire hall. There was a pause, then a wave of disbelief as her words echoed through the chamber. "I'll meet it!" The Council erupted in a mixture of shock, confusion, and outright alarm. Her statement seemed absurd, almost laughable. Alien dignitaries leaned forward, eyes widening, or antennae twitching in disbelief. Elise's words had no bravado or arrogance. She had simply made a statement, as calmly as if she'd volunteered to hold a discussion with a colleague. The delegation from the Psylocks, a race known for their analytical minds, was the first to question her. "You cannot be serious, human," their spokesperson intoned, its voice a series of chirps and trills, translated by the Council's universal system. "That creature could tear you apart with one swipe." Elise smiled slightly. "I understand the risk," she replied, her tone unwavering. "But we humans have a different approach with animals. We know how to read them, understand them in ways others might not." The Thraxus delegate, a massive creature with scales of shifting silver, scoffed, the sound rumbling like distant thunder. "Is this some attempt to prove human bravery? Or is it simply ignorance?" Elise shook her head. "Neither. My people have dealt with apex predators before, and we know not all of them respond purely with aggression. Sometimes, even the fiercest creatures can sense intent. I believe it's worth attempting." A wave of uncertainty rippled through the council. They were used to calculated risks and strategic maneuvers, not bold gestures from creatures as comparatively delicate as humans. Yet Elise's calm confidence unsettled them. The Galactic Council was full of beings whose histories spanned eons, but humans had an unpredictability that defied all calculation. After a brief consultation, the council members reached a reluctant agreement. They would arrange a controlled encounter with the Muradhak, not only for Elise's sake but to observe humanity's behavior up close. There was a subtle undercurrent of both skepticism and intrigue. For some, this was a mere test of a foolhardy species. For others, it was a rare opportunity to witness something unusual, perhaps even something extraordinary. The council members murmured in agreement, and the arrangements were made swiftly. Elise would face the Muradhak, watched by the entire assembly. If she survived, humanity might gain a new respect among the galaxy's species. If she failed, well, many assumed that would be the end of the humans' strange bid for galactic acceptance. As Elise prepared for the encounter, she was aware of the doubtful, amused glances cast her way. But she simply smiled, readying herself for what was to come. The chamber's lighting dimmed, focusing all attention on the center platform. Heavy, reinforced doors slid open, and through them, the Muradhak emerged, looming in the frame before stepping into full view. It was even more monstrous up close than on the council's screen, a creature that seemed born from the nightmares of 1,000 species. Its dark, scaled hide gleamed under the lights, each scale as tough as reinforced armor. Powerful, rippling muscles lay beneath, every movement whispering of lethal strength. Spines tipped with venom lined its back, their poison rumored to paralyze or kill in seconds. Its claws, jagged and sharp, flexed against the floor, leaving faint grooves in the metal. The Muradhak's eyes scanned the room, catching glints of light that seemed to flash as it moved. They held a savage intelligence, a calculating look that unnerved even the most hardened predators present. This was no mindless beast, it was a creature with understanding, cunning, and a ruthlessness earned through eons of survival. Its gaze landed on the assembly, and instinctively, alien representatives shrank back. The council chamber, typically filled with bravado and posturing, grew silent, its members recalling stories of those who had barely survived encounters with these apex predators. The stories were known, tales of entire teams vanishing on expeditions, their final transmissions filled with panicked whispers of shadows and fangs. Elise stepped forward, drawing gasps from the delegates who could not believe their eyes. The sight of her slight, unarmored figure approaching the creature was almost absurd. Some of the alien delegates muttered among themselves, stunned that a creature they viewed as soft, even fragile, would be brave, or foolish, enough to walk towards such a beast without a single layer of protection. The Muradhak turned its attention fully to Elise, its eyes narrowing as it studied her. Its nostrils flared as it inhaled her scent, the subtle rise and fall of its hackles revealing it was on high alert. Several of the council members were barely able to watch, convinced that this was the moment the human would meet a brutal end. Surely, they thought, a creature like the Muradhak, designed to be the ultimate predator, would not be pacified by mere proximity. Elise, however, held her ground, eyes steady, her breathing controlled and calm. She radiated a confidence that none of the delegates could comprehend. As if sensing the thoughts of those watching, Elise took another step forward. Then, to the utter disbelief of everyone present, she removed the remaining barriers between herself and the creature. No force fields, no protective armor, just a human, standing before one of the galaxy's most feared predators, exposed and vulnerable. Her actions left the council in stunned silence. Representatives who had centuries of experience in warfare, diplomacy, and survival instinctively recoiled, expecting the inevitable attack. Some muttered darkly that humans had overestimated their influence, that the Murid Hawk would make a quick, bloody example of her. But Elise continued forward, her movements deliberate and unthreatening. She extended a hand, moving it slowly, palm open, fingers relaxed. The council collectively held its breath. The Murid Hawk's eyes tracked her hand, and its lips peeled back, revealing a row of needle-like teeth. A low growl vibrated in its throat, a sound that had sent many to their deaths on Tarkon 12. Elise, however, seemed undeterred, her calm energy unwavering. At the last moment, just as it seemed the Murid Hawk would lunge, Elise's hand came to rest on the creature's snout, lightly stroking the tough hide. A few gasps echoed through the chamber. The creature tensed, as if ready to strike, and then, nothing. Instead, the Murid Hawk remained still, its initial hostility fading as it took in the unfamiliar sensation. Its eyes softened, shifting from a predatory gleam to something closer to curiosity, perhaps even trust. The creature let out a deep exhale, as if releasing a tension it had been holding. The disbelief was palpable. Several delegates struggled to process what they were seeing, murmuring that there had to be an explanation, that this couldn't be real. Others speculated that the Murid Hawk was drugged or restrained, unable to act. But the reality was undeniable. Elise was petting the creature, and it was responding, almost affectionately. The Murid Hawk leaned into her touch, letting out a soft rumble that sounded more like a purr than a growl. Elise continued, her hand moving with a gentle, confident rhythm, her demeanor one of respect and reassurance. For her, this was not a display of dominance or control. She was connecting with the creature in a way that was foreign to nearly everyone present, a mutual acknowledgement of trust between two beings who might otherwise be enemies. Some delegates, witnessing this impossible scene, began to feel a grudging respect for humanity. How could a species that seemed so physically weak possess the nerve, the audacity, to reach out to an apex predator? It defied logic, and yet, it was happening before their eyes. Even the most skeptical delegates were forced to reconsider their assumptions about humans, creatures that, despite all odds, seemed capable of bridging divides no other species would attempt. The Murid Hawk let out another soft rumble, a sound that sent waves of shock through the assembly. Its body relaxed, the tension melting away as it allowed itself to be touched, to be understood. Elise, ever patient, continued her gentle movements, showing no fear, no hesitation. For her, this was a normal part of her species' relationship with creatures from her world, a form of communication that went beyond words or gestures. And then, as if on cue, Elise looked up, meeting the astonished eyes of the council members. Her gaze held a quiet confidence, a silent message that humanity's strength lay not just in their technology or resilience, but in their willingness to approach life with a unique compassion, even in the face of unimaginable danger. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of disbelief, confusion, and fear. Delegates from every species spoke at once, their voices overlapping in a chaotic chorus of incredulity. For the council members who understood the merciless world of apex predators, what had just unfolded seemed nothing short of miraculous, or insane. Species from worlds where survival hinged on rigid rules between predator and prey struggled to comprehend why a human, so fragile by comparison, had risked such a blatant encounter. Some saw Elise's behavior as sheer recklessness, while others suspected it was some hidden power humans possessed. Among the Harkle, a race with sharp claws and predatory instincts, the humans' actions were met with a mixture of reluctant admiration and suspicion. They viewed any creature's attempt to tame an apex predator as not only dangerous but fundamentally disrespectful to nature's order. The Harkle representative muttered loudly, To defy an apex predator is a violation of the natural hierarchy. Either this human has no sense or possesses some unfathomable influence over life forms. In contrast, the delicate, tree-dwelling Mixians saw this interaction as practically supernatural. Their understanding of survival involved camouflage and avoiding predators altogether. To them, humans seemed a reckless species with little respect for life-preserving boundaries. A Mixian delegate whispered in awe, "Perhaps they have an aura? A power to bend creatures to their will?" Others, however, were more critical. The Eldrak delegate, an intensely logical being with a crystalline form, was visibly struggling. The Eldrak's entire culture was built on rational observation and systematic reasoning, and nothing about this encounter made sense to them. Their voice, precise and calm even in disbelief, cut through the noise. "This action defies probability," the Eldrak stated, a faint tremor of disbelief slipping through. "The Muradhawk is the galaxy's most efficient predator. It does not submit to unfamiliar creatures." Elise, observing the council's incredulity, maintained her composure. She raised a hand to gain their attention, her voice calm but commanding. "There's no secret to what you saw. On Earth, we have a variety of animals with strong survival instincts, including some quite dangerous ones. While not every animal responds this way, many respond to a calm presence and gentle gestures. What you saw is a form of communication, a way to show I am not a threat." A tense silence followed as her words settled over the chamber. The representatives shifted in their seats, trying to reconcile her explanation with the raw, ruthless world they knew. Among the Thraxus, a species known for their rigid view on dominance, there was no room for this trust she spoke of. The Thraxus delegate sneered, their metallic scales catching the dim light. "Trust," they scoffed. "Such a concept is meaningless to a true predator. They obey strength and power alone. To think you could pet a creature of this caliber is absurd." The human delegate took their skepticism in stride. She had expected as much, understanding that humanity's unique relationship with animals was difficult to explain to those from worlds shaped by brutal hierarchies. She continued calmly addressing the council's doubts. "While it may seem reckless, humans learned over time that some animals are simply curious, not inherently hostile. Many creatures will react with aggression only if threatened. The Muradhawk likely sensed that I wasn't a threat and chose to be cautious rather than violent." The Synthinid, a towering figure composed of living metal and circuits, let out a low hum, their electronic voice filled with skepticism. "Your words suggest the Muradhawk could think beyond its instincts, that it could choose, even in proximity to a lesser creature. You expect us to believe this beast simply yielded?" Another delegate, from a predatory species known as the Vorlons, leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "The Muradhawk must have been restrained somehow. Perhaps you're using some technology to manipulate its behavior." Elise gave a faint smile. "If you'd like, we can arrange another interaction in a more controlled setting. I don't rely on hidden devices, and I'm willing to demonstrate this without any interference." The room fell into murmurs again, with many delegates exchanging wary glances. The council members had long prided themselves on their understanding of nature and survival, and it was difficult for them to believe that a species as unassuming as humanity could hold an ability they themselves had overlooked. Some even felt affronted that humans, a relatively young species, would display what seemed to them like arrogance in taming a creature that most feared. Yet, despite their reservations, a few felt an undeniable spark of curiosity. If this human's claims could be verified, then humanity might possess a mysterious quality the council hadn't accounted for. The Eldrak delegate, always a proponent of empirical evidence, finally addressed Elise. "If what you say is true, then repeat this act under the council's supervision, in a completely neutral environment where we can confirm the absence of any restraining technology." Several delegates nodded in agreement, their skepticism tempered with just a hint of anticipation. A controlled trial, observed by each species, would leave no room for deception. Elise's demonstration would either validate humanity's claims or expose them as mere foolhardiness. Calmly, Elise agreed to the proposal, her confidence unwavering. The council had arranged for a massive, open habitat, one designed to mimic the natural environment of the Muradhawks. Towering rocks and dense foliage filled the space, offering hiding spots and high perches for the predators. The enclosure hummed with a tense energy, every shadow hiding the threat of deadly claws and teeth. Multiple Muradhawks roamed within, their eyes flashing as they tracked any movement, their senses tuned to the faintest hint of a challenge. Each one of these creatures was as intimidating as the first Muradhawk, and many council members were certain that facing a pack of them would push the humans' luck to its limits. Elise entered the habitat calmly, her stance relaxed yet alert. The council members observed from a secure, elevated platform, their eyes trained on every move she made. Some of the alien delegates looked grim, certain they were about to witness a grisly outcome. Others leaned forward in intrigue, wondering if there was truly something unique about humanity that had gone unnoticed by the galaxy for so long. The Vorlon and Thraxus delegates, who had openly doubted her abilities, were especially keen to scrutinize every second. At first, the Muradhawks watched her with piercing eyes, their bodies coiled and ready. They were curious, yes, but their nature was to strike if even the smallest sign of hostility emerged. Elise held her ground, moving with a slow, respectful cadence, each step steady but unthreatening. She wasn't trying to assert dominance, nor did she flinch or back away. Her presence was calm, and she radiated a sense of ease that, over time, seemed to affect the creatures. She allowed herself to be observed, inviting them to assess her without imposing herself. Slowly, one of the Muradhawks broke away from the group, moving cautiously toward her. Its powerful body flowed with each step, muscles tensed but not aggressive. The council members held their breath, awaiting the inevitable clash of predator versus prey. But Elise extended a hand once more, her movements deliberate, and let it rest inches from the creature's nose, inviting it to choose how close to approach. The Muradhawk sniffed the air, processing her scent. Its nostrils flared, and it emitted a low, rumbling sound, somewhere between a growl and a huff of curiosity. The council had seen many predators behave this way before an attack, but as they watched, they realized that this Muradhawk's body language was shifting. Its muscles relaxed, its eyes softened, and with a slow, almost reluctant gesture, it leaned into her hand. Elisa's fingers brushed over the Muradhawk's rough scales, and the creature allowed it, something unheard of among apex predators. Several council members exchanged shocked glances. This human was openly petting one of the most feared creatures in the galaxy, and the creature was accepting it, even leaning in as if craving more contact. The Thraxus delegates' eyes widened, disbelief etched into their every movement. "Impossible!" they muttered, voice laced with both awe and reluctance. This defies all our studies of predator behavior. It is responding to her, as though it understands her intentions." The Vorlon, who had dismissed the idea as a mere trick, watched in stunned silence as another Muradhawk began to edge closer, drawn in by Elisa's calm demeanor. She shifted her focus to this new creature, keeping her movements gentle and respectful. It sniffed cautiously, its teeth bared slightly, but ultimately it didn't attack. The calm energy Elise projected seemed to affect the group of predators, creating a ripple effect. In an almost eerie silence, several Muradhawks began to encircle her, their hostility replaced with a tentative curiosity. One by one, they inched forward, brushing against her outstretched hands. Each of them, in turn, submitted to this quiet interaction, allowing themselves to be touched without showing any sign of aggression. The Muradhawks, creatures of primal fury and survival instincts, were responding to something beyond logic, a feeling, an aura of trust that no other species had been able to invoke. The Eldrak delegate, who had been observing with a clinical detachment, finally spoke, his voice soft with revelation. "The human speaks of compassion, of calm presence. Could it be that such a concept is understood, even on a primal level, by creatures we deem incapable of trust?" Elise continued her movements, each one measured, maintaining her own respect for the Muradhawk's instincts. The council had expected either violence or intimidation, but what they were witnessing was something else entirely, a moment of coexistence, of mutual respect between predator and human. It defied every expectation they held about survival and dominance. For many it was a profound moment, revealing a side of humanity that most species had failed to understand. One of the smaller Muradhawks, intrigued by the interactions of its larger kin, approached, letting out a curious chirrup. Elise turned her gaze toward it, giving it the same attention, the same gentle energy. She stroked the creature's head, her touch as calm as ever. The creature blinked, its muscles relaxing, and it curled itself around her legs as though seeking protection, a gesture entirely foreign to a predator of its stature. The council was silent, watching this unprecedented display. Representatives from aggressive species felt a begrudging admiration, seeing a kind of bravery that was as foreign to them as it was effective. For species who were prey animals, Elisa's act of compassion resonated deeply, showing that humans could offer understanding in places where others saw only hostility. Even the Mixian delegate, who had previously whispered about supernatural powers, now looked at Elise with a newfound respect. "It is not magic," they murmured. "It is empathy." As the Muradhawks continued their calm interactions, the realization settled over the council. This was not merely an act of bravado or manipulation. This was humanity's essence, an ability to reach beyond themselves, to risk vulnerability in the pursuit of understanding and connection, even with creatures who posed a threat. For the first time, the council saw humanity's bravery not in their willingness to dominate but in their courage to coexist, to see beyond fear. When Elise finally stepped back, the Muradhawks released her without aggression, retreating into the shadows of the habitat as if understanding the interaction had reached its end. She turned to the council, her expression serene yet powerful. The council reconvened, the atmosphere in the chamber humming with a new energy, a mixture of wonder, respect, and the faint echoes of doubt. Every delegate was drawn into the memory of what they had just witnessed, the humans standing calmly among the galaxy's most feared predators, unharmed and unafraid. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in silence, weighing this extraordinary display, each grappling with the implications in their own way. The Eldrak delegate, ever the voice of logic, was the first to speak. "Humans," they began, "seem to possess a profound disregard for self-preservation, yet in that disregard lies something rare. It is no mere recklessness, it is a willingness to extend trust, even in the face of certain danger. Such behavior is not logical, but its impact cannot be denied." The Harkle, who had initially viewed the humans' actions as foolhardy, now found themselves strangely moved. "It is a dangerous trait," the Harkle representative mused, their voice both admiring and wary. "To approach danger without aggression or submission. Many of us have evolved to strike first or flee. But humans? They remain. They seek connection, even with creatures they should fear." The Mixian, delicate and cautious by nature, nodded in agreement. "Perhaps it is this empathy, that makes humanity so unique. They seem willing to face hostility with openness. Perhaps, in this galaxy, such a quality is rare enough to be precious." As murmurs of approval spread through the chamber, there were still some voices of dissent. The Thraxis delegate, a firm believer in the power of dominance, shook their head. "Empathy has its limits," they argued. "Trusting creatures of instinct is a fool's path. Today's show may have ended without bloodshed, but a galaxy governed by such reckless trust invites disaster." Elise, standing before the council, listened intently, letting their thoughts settle before speaking. When she finally raised her voice, there was a calm resolve in her words. "Council members," she began, "humans understand the risks we take when we approach the unknown. We know that trust can be dangerous, that it can end in disaster. But we also know that trust is the foundation of connection. Without it, we would still be a divided world, living in fear of one another." Her words resonated with the quieter voices among the delegates, especially those from species who had survived countless hardships. She continued, her tone warm yet firm. "Where we come from, we've learned that even the fiercest creatures can respond to respect and patience. It doesn't always work, and it's not without risk. But sometimes, in that sliver of understanding, something powerful happens. We learn, we grow, and we change, both ourselves and those we reach out to." The Synthenid, who had maintained a detached perspective, leaned forward, considering her words. So you believe that humans bring something to the galaxy that no other species does? That empathy, and not just strength, has a place here? Their voice was laced with a genuine curiosity, as though they were witnessing a new paradigm unfold. Elise met their gaze unwavering. I believe that each of us brings something valuable. For us humans, it's this capacity to empathize, to connect even with what we fear. We don't see that as a weakness but as a bridge, one that allows us to understand, not just conquer. The Eldrak delegate, visibly moved, rose. It seems that humanity has much to teach us, then. Perhaps empathy and bravery are not so distinct from one another. What humans have shown us today defies our expectations, and in that defiance, we see potential. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembly, voices from species both predatory and gentle alike. With a sense of anticipation in the air, the council reached a resolution. It was decided that humanity's standing within the council would be elevated, recognizing them not only as participants but as emissaries for interspecies understanding. The Muradhak, too, would be granted a protected status, acknowledging it as a creature of respect rather than fear, and humanity would play a unique role in this protection. Their experiences with creatures from their own world made them the ideal candidates to guide future interactions with these predators. As the decree was read aloud, Elise felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. This was more than a personal success. It was a step forward for humanity as a whole, a testament to the power of connection in a galaxy that often valued power above all else. The council chamber buzzed with an atmosphere that was different from before. The skepticism that had once filled the room had transformed into something closer to reverence, or at least an open-minded curiosity. For the first time, humanity was recognized not just as newcomers to the galactic order but as bringers of a unique perspective, one that combined bravery and compassion in equal measure. As the session came to a close, several delegates approached Elise, each with questions, some even expressing admiration for her actions. The Mixian delegate inclined their head respectfully, acknowledging what they had witnessed with newfound admiration. Humanity may yet change the fabric of this galaxy, they said softly. And in doing so, perhaps we will change, too. Walking out of the council chamber, Elise couldn't help but smile, filled with hope for what lay ahead. Today's events had proven something vital. Humanity's strength lay not in weapons or technology, but in the simple, often misunderstood act of reaching out. And in a galaxy teeming with creatures from countless worlds, perhaps that was exactly what was needed, species that dared to bridge divides, to see potential where others saw danger. The universe was vast, filled with beings who would view humanity with either admiration or doubt. But today, humanity had carved out a place for itself among the stars, not as conquerors or as prey but as something entirely new, a species willing to face fear with empathy, to meet hostility with understanding. And as the council adjourned, the words spoken within that chamber echoed across worlds, a quiet but powerful reminder of the courage it takes to embrace rather than to fear. In the end, Elise knew that humanity's role in the galaxy was only just beginning. There would be challenges, and no shortage of beings who would question or misunderstand. But they had shown that there was strength in trust, in compassion, and in the courage to stand unarmed before a predator and offer a hand. Today, humanity had claimed its place not through domination, but through the promise of connection, and that, she knew, was a victory far greater than any conquest.